and they practice, they become good citizens for this nation. 3, develop appropriate organizational, practical, technological competencies for problem solving. We need to pose challenges to our learners as we teach them so that they come up, they develop these core competence of problem solving. They need to be the heroes at the end. They need to come out as the victors so that they can overcome. Understand and appreciate human rights, civil responsibility for attainment of social justice. Remember, we are looking at what is happening today. We are aware about our court systems. We are aware about what goes around. Can we have children who will uphold human rights and also give fair justice to whatever comes around them? Respect and appreciate cultural and human diversity to promote cohesion and integration. As we are talking about this, we need to look at the past, where we have come from during our elections. What have we seen? What have we encountered in the tribal clashes and all this? How do we overcome them? We can overcome this one by bringing in pupils to appreciate other people's cultures and the other people's, the way they live, so that we become one. We be united by accepting who they are. 6, apply acquired competencies in solving environmental challenges for sustainable development. I think this one is self-explanatory. We know the competencies that we are bringing in every day. That's a key to whatever we are going to do. With the key competencies, communication and collaboration, citizenship, all that, we need to bring them out. 7, understand the system of governance in Kenya and be willing to participate in its process. Very clear. And 8 is participate in community service learning to manage pertinent and contemporary issues in the society effectively. We have, even for example, as we are talking about, Corona is a pertinent issue. We need to know how are they going to handle this. We have the HIV and AIDS and all that, and we need to be aware about those. Thank you for that. I think we go to the next slide, and we have a key inquiry question. Rose, can you take over?
So our key inquiry question is critical to us today, and it's critical for every lesson that we bring out to the learners. And the one thing that we are encouraging ourselves as teachers is to ask children a question that will guide their learning. And so we want to ask us as participants today a question that will guide our learning today. And so our question is, how can I, as a teacher of social studies, successfully deliver a social studies lesson? Now, for this, we want to look at the pedagogical approaches that we as teachers may use to guide the learning of social studies. Now, going back to the basic education curriculum framework, you may remember that we had some theoretical approaches that the CBC is anchored on. And one of them is the instructional design theory, within which we have the direct instructional method or way of instructing kids or children in our classrooms. But we also are aware that we are just coming out of the Tusome dispensation, where we have a familiar phrase that we always used in the Tusome: I do, we do, and you do. And so basically that is the direct ourselves as teachers of social studies, is to think about ways or approaches that we can use as teachers that will still grow us into a more student-centered educationist. And so the direct instructional method, in as much as theory has, is that the teacher takes the lead. It does not mean, therefore, that we are putting the child to the side. And I just want to quickly take us through some 7 steps that we may use when we are delivering using the direct instructional approach. The first thing you would want to do as a teacher is review the previous learned materials, which is what we always do. And then state the objective or the learning outcome very clearly, which again we will do for any lesson that we are teaching. Then present the new material, okay? Now, once you present the new material, for instance, you want to teach the children on the compass direction, which is our first substrand. So you want to present that resource or that material first. So that is a phase where you are doing as a teacher. You may want to demonstrate where is east, where is west, by pointing maybe the direction of the sun. So you're presenting that material to the child. And then we move to the step where now you want the children together with you to do. And so then again, the children or the learners will demonstrate together with you the direction of the east. And then when you move to the next step, which is the guided practice, it requires that now you allow the children to, on their own, be able to identify the east. Now, based on that, now that they know the east, because now we want them to do independent practice, then it means you want to allow them to explore beyond just the east. So in pairs, in groups, they will now go this next step of being able to identify the other compass directions on their own. But notice that you began by guiding them, you began by demonstrating, and then you allowed a moment where you did it together, and then now you are giving them a more guided practice because they already know where to begin and which direction to go. So the beauty with direct instructional method is everything is introduced, or the concept is introduced to the child incrementally. And in most cases, that theory shows that the learner may remember that a lot more, particularly for us in social studies where a lot of it can be done through a demonstration. Okay, so then we have the second pedagogical approach, which is Daisy, the inquiry-based learning approach. Now, so the children, or the learners, sorry for using children, and we are looking at learners, the learners may want to also begin by asking themselves questions, and it is you, the teacher, who will want to guide them to, by asking them some questions that will help them to do an investigation. Okay, so in the IBL, or the inquiry-based learning, the learner is playing a central role because they need to find questions for themselves based on the question that the teacher will have asked. So what we try to focus on in inquiry-based learning is that we are looking at a bigger project. We are looking at a bigger thing that, for instance, by a point where the children will do a project. So you can begin them off by asking them small probing questions. A good inquiry-based question would be an open-ended question, would be a question that probes. So ask the children probing questions, questions that will make them think about something in multi-dimensional ways, so that they're not seeing a concept in only one way, but they're seeing it in several different ways, okay? Now, this can be very effective because questions trigger curiosity. When it triggers curiosity, then the child will go there, or the learner will go out there to explore, to find out from people, to discuss with peers, to brainstorm on issues or concepts to be able to get a solution. Now, this is very critical for critical thinking and problem solving. So every time we want to think about embedding the competency of critical thinking and problem solving, IBL may be one of the approaches we may want to use for that particular lesson. So we go to, yes.
Ross. Now, for the inquiry-based learning also, for these learning approaches, they also help the teacher to develop some of the key competencies. As you probe the questions, the pupils will be able to think, will be able critically. So you're going to bring in the critical thinking and the problem solving as they answer the questions. It elicits that curiosity to find out what the teacher is adding from known to unknown. Thank you. Continue, Ross.
Okay, so then we have our third pedagogical approach. And this is what the good old question and answer. It's one of the best approaches. And in as much as we look at the theories of current learning trends, we cannot wish away question and answer. Question and answer has a very powerful way of making children think, okay? Because they have to think, and most times for question and answer, they're thinking on their feet, and they're thinking about resolving or solving an issue right there on their feet. So if you had asked them to go out in the school grounds and they need to point to the direction of the sun, then they will do that very easily. But now you want them to find the other points on the compass, and so they have to think. So we have east is where the sun comes from. So how do I place the rest? Where is my back going to face, or where is my front going to face, and so on. And so then they begin to think about things. Okay, so question and answer can be used right through or merged together with all the other learning approaches. And it can be used at any time during a lesson. Okay. Now, what we always also think about is try and make sure that you have prepared questions as you go into the classroom, so that we are not just popping up or shooting out questions at will. If you have a more prepared structure of how you want to do the questioning and answering, then you're likely to achieve the learning outcome a lot better than when we just pop in with the pop-up questions. But then again, we are not saying pop-up questions are a problem. They are okay, particularly when you just want to find out where the children are at as the lesson is progressing. Let's look at the fourth pedagogical approach. And then again, we go into discussions. We have had series of discussions with the learners in our classrooms. What we always think is you can have a whole class brainstorm session, but it is more beneficial if you're going to have children discuss in smaller groups or in pairs. This allows for interdependence. It allows for all the children to find themselves thinking, yes, I am valued, my voice is valued, other than when we have a whole class kind of discussion. So again, here we have to use questions. We have to give children problems. We have to give them tasks and give them time within which you would like that task discussed and exhausted and presented back to the rest of the class, or presented in whatever way you would like. It could be maybe you want them to present on paper, you want them to do a carousel, you want them to do a gallery walk as they present to each other and so on, but make sure that there is a conclusion or a point at which you are closing the discussion with some outcomes. Madoka, you want to add something?
Yeah, again, as we said that as the pupils discuss, it is very important for the teacher to pop in questions that are going to elicit interest in these children as they discuss. And the question should not have a yes or no questions, and should let the learners at least as he forms the groups that are going to form these discussion groups, the teacher should give priority to the mixed abilities. Don't put bright children alone and others like that. Mix them. And especially if you have some people who have special need, should make them the leaders so that they feel appreciated. This is very important to give self-efficacy a chance in this time, so that the child feels, yes, I'm just like any other. Thank you.
Okay, so then we look at the next approach. Again, we have used this over and over again. Good old role play, dramatization, and storytelling. And for us in social studies, we have several situations or instances where we may want to use the role play. And I just want to refer us to where we are looking at, for instance, good citizenship in school, or we are looking at community leaders, and we want to dramatize that. We want to do a role play. See, when we role play, research shows that there are children who learn best by doing, by dramatizing, the kinesthetic learners. And so these ones will, this concept will be deepened best when we provide this opportunity for them, and that is likely to stick a lot more than the teacher leading the discussion or the teacher teaching, as it were. Okay, so again, for role play and dramatization, we may not be scripters, we may not be people of dramas per se, but it is not hard for us to give a character to a learner and allow that learner to use their own creativity to come up with a role that character would play as a political, as a community leader, for instance. So if a child is given the role of a religious leader, I am certain that you as a teacher may not necessarily need to tell that child what to do. The child can discuss with a pair or a group of other learners in the class and be able to come up with a dramatized role of that particular religious leader that needs to be. And Mudoka talked about the era we are in, and we are looking at, for instance, the slides, the landslides that are happening in our country, in West Pokot. And so you're giving them a scenario that is pertinent. For instance, the slides, the landslides that are happening in West Pokot. And you're saying, so what would be your role as a religious leader, or as a cultural leader, or a council of elders, or the MCA, for instance, in that particular scenario? And so that brings us to the next approach. Okay.
Just a minute. Daisy is on the role play. Hello. Yeah, I want to add and say that this is one of the best ways children want to learn, by doing something. And as Rosa said, you give them the roles and you let them come up with some judgment. For example, when you look at our book on leadership, we see that the traditional leaders were to solve disputes and conflicts in the society. Let the children be posed to a challenge and let them now come up with a solution. Let them think as those leaders, and they come up. You will just give them a challenge, like maybe a community has been attacked by another community. You as a leader, how are you going to solve this? Would you allow your people to go and revenge, or are you going to call for a peaceful negotiation and all that? Let the children come up with a solution and discuss in class. This will give those children the leadership qualities. And then also, again, the competence of self-efficacy. The child will see, yes, I'm a leader, and that will give them even a future goal. Can I become a leader in my society? Can I become a leader in our country? So you are eliciting some curiosity for these learners to look forward. Thank you. Ross, continue.
All right, so Mdoka has talked very well about the role play, and you realize it links very well to the next approach, which is the case studies. What we want to say about case studies is that we don't need to crack our heads to come up with case studies. A lot of the case studies are, for instance, what Mdoka has talked about. So there's a dispute in a community, in a particular community. So then how we may assign different groups or learners different perspectives of that conflict, and then assign them a role or a leadership position that is arising from that community. So then we want to also find out from them, so how would they resolve the conflict if they were in this position as the traditional leader, as the cultural leader, as the religious leader, or as the elder in that particular community. So that what we want is for us to not really go out of our way. The social studies books that we have provided as Oxford, Our Lives Today, for instance, when you look at community, again, we are just looking at community leadership, which is on page 123. We also have some pictures on page 122 that have different leaders. Now, you can assign a group a picture. That is a case. If you assign a group a picture of a cultural leader, let them think. The group will think and come up with how that leader presented in the picture will resolve that particular issue, so that we use stories. We can present the case studies in story form, but we can also give them a pictorial story, or we can just have them think about, give them small snippets or small cutouts of 3-4 sentences, which we as teachers can write on a small piece of paper and have a paper or a case given to each one of the groups, and then have them role play it or have them present what the task requires of them. For instance, like we have said, how would this particular leader resolve this concern? If it's a dispute, how would they resolve it? If it is an issue of landslide, your people are homeless, some have passed on in the process. So how does this person come in? How does this leader come in? And I think, again, as Mdoka said, it builds on their self-efficacy, it builds on their critical thinking and problem solving, and just being able to stand at a position and see situations in their communities as they are. Okay, so then here we'll be providing them those opportunities that the curriculum requires us to provide for them to excel as leaders and as learners in your class. So we want to look at the next, which is very critical for us. And I know over time that we may have changed a bit on how we view the field studies and field trips. And I want to, this is not in very bad faith, but I know a few of our schools do the correct thing when they take children for field studies. But a few of us also find this as a good opportunity to get out of school and the children to get out of school, and they can go for Mombasa. We will take them to get the ruins for 15 minutes, and the rest of the time we take them to the beach so that they can enjoy the swim and come back home feeling more refreshed. But so then we want to just think about, it is fine for the field trips to be fun, and for the children to learn from the fun. So how do we do it? Then we may need to think about more structured approaches to taking children out for field work. So as they interact with the environment, can we give them a guided perspective? Can we give them a questionnaire? I know we do that, but so that we just remind ourselves, it will be critical for them to have something to bring back to school after the field trip. Maybe not necessarily an essay. Maybe you want them to collect artifacts, or artifacts in form of images. If you are able and the opportunity presents itself, and you can go with the school tablets, for instance, are the children able to take photographs of the artifacts or of the features that you wanted them to study while they're out there? And then when they come back, can they now mount a portfolio based on what they learned, that they can present to you as a project, or they can present to their parents as a project? So ideally, we just want us to think about the pre-visit, what it is we want to plan about, what it is we want the children to focus on, and then what do we do at the post-visit when the children are back in the classroom. Okay, so field studies is critical, but let's think deeply about it. Let's because it's the best opportunity for the children to interact with the environment. Like Modoka said, being our first learning outcome for juniors, for upper primary, then we need to think about them engaging with the environment, and by so doing, having something to come back to remind them about the environment that they live in. Okay, so I hope we are getting somewhere, and then we want to go to the next slide. And at this point, we want to pause a bit and say, so now that we know about the theoretical framework, we know about, or we've reminded ourselves about the things we learned when we were back in college, and we were looking at teaching methodology. Now that we have reminded ourselves about that, so then how do we break down this and be able, break down the curriculum designs to be able to use the approaches that we have just talked about? So we are going to go through breaking down or interpreting the curriculum design. And so we have presented to you a snippet of the first strand, and actually just the first substrand of the grade 4 social studies. Mr. Madoka.
Okay, thank you, Rose. As we look at the curriculum design, what we used to call the syllabus, we need to, before we go to skim from this curriculum design, teachers, we have to be thorough with this one. First, we have the strand, which is natural and the built environment. Then the substrand is natural environment, and we are looking at the compass direction. Look at this. From this, we need to have 6 lessons. These 6 lessons need to come from the specific learning outcomes, which are, when you look at our case here, we have 5 of them. And the 5th one is an appreciation. So for us to come up with these 6 lessons, we need to consider the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is what's going to guide us. It is a challenge, mostly to many teachers, when you are given only 4 learning outcomes to break down to 6 lessons. So for this not to be a challenge, we need to come to the suggested learning experience. This one will guide you, and it's very important. What we are calling a few of them, design That is, you go through it clearly, you study it, you comprehend completely, and look at the 4 learning outcomes to find out which one has more weight, which one may take longer than the other, which one needs more time to develop. And therefore, you will find that if one takes longer, then you need to have 2 lessons for one. For example, let's look at the first one. Identify the 4 cardinal points of a compass. Look at the learning suggestion. Learners are guided to brainstorm in pairs the 4 cardinal points. Practice in pairs, giving directions of the places using the 4 cardinal points. When you look at this one, then you will be guided by those suggested learning experience to break it down to, do I need 2 lessons to have that? Because one, these learners only know about where they're coming from and where they're going. Now they need to know the 4 cardinal points, the news, north, south, east, west. And this one, they need demonstration, as we said. Now, when you go to the approaches, we have the inquiry, where we said we need to pose some questions, and then we demonstrate the I do, we do, and then they do. So the teacher here, you will need more time with the learners because you'll have to go outside the classroom, demonstrate with the children facing and extending their hands and facing the different directions. So you will need more time. That one may require 2 lessons. And therefore, with that one, you'll be able, now you have already covered one lesson from the 6. You'll have 2 lessons, so you need 4 more. So you start that one. And at the same time, teachers, remember, we have the key inquiry question. That should guide you as you prepare your questions. How am I going to achieve? Look at this one. How could we tell directions of places? How are we going to develop this one? This one is very key as you prepare the lessons. Because then you go down and break all these being guided by this until you come to this one. And my question, which I want to pose now, is how do you assess as a teacher the appreciation from the learners? How do you assess appreciation as a teacher? Because in this one, we may not lesson plan for this one, but it should come up as something. For example, let me talk about appreciation. As the children are going home with the others, on the way, they talk about my home is to the south of Rosie's home. They are already appreciating, they know how to identify their places using the compass point. Again, and in the appreciation, teachers, when you are concluding your lesson at the end of the substrand, when you bring in some questions, affirmative, or even in the form of oral questions, you are going to, whatever the children are going to do, the answering of the questions shows an appreciation of what they learned. How are they going to use this one in the future? That is an appreciation. And you will see it even when the children are learning. So it is very important to know how you are going to break down the learning outcomes to develop 6 lessons. For your case, and I want to go to inform the teacher, this one should not be a problem to you. Oxford University Press has broken down this one in the teacher's guide. The teacher's guide has completely broken down the 6 lessons for you. So all you need to do is have the teacher's guide from our lives today, and it has done this one for you. So this one should not worry you. We have done that one, but it's very good as a teacher, before you follow what has been done for you, to categorically understand how all these, go through them one by one, which one has more weight than the other, and which one will take more time, so that you can be able to develop the 6 lessons. I think we can continue to the other part, so that we can see now, how do we break down this one into a lesson plan? Okay, we are here.
Okay, so as we go there, somebody is asking what is KSA. K stands for knowledge, S is the skills, and A are the attitudes. So KSA is basically what we hope the learner will be able to attain through the lesson or through the learning outcome. So the learning outcome have to cater for the knowledge, the skilling, and the attitude. The attitude is what Mr. Mudoka is talking about. For instance, appreciation. How do you therefore assess it? And I think we are coming to that.
And the drawing also comes as a skill. Now let's look at this briefly, teachers. We go through this. The curriculum design will help you to prepare schemes of work. It is important to first be able to interpret it well in order to write the scheme. I think this is what I've already explained. Look at the curriculum design column 1, the strand topic, which is broken down to substrands. And in each substrand, you are given the number of lessons a teacher is supposed to teach to cover the substrand. And that's why we said you must be guided by the learning experiences. What is the learner supposed to do? What is the learner supposed to, what part is the learner playing? As you are preparing, you put in consideration the learner is supposed to do is and that. At the same time, teachers, let's note that we have the core competencies that are supposed to be developed in every lesson that you are going to present in a class. For you to cover the 6 lessons from the 5 outcomes, then you will be guided by the learning experiences. Befriend the experience to guide you to break down the outcomes to cover 6 lessons. Can we continue, Daisy? In short, we have said, okay, this one we should now see the need. Please bring in the lesson plan and the design. Teachers, in this one, we need to ask this question. How do you develop the core competencies during a lesson? How do you develop the core competencies during a lesson? We should add this one as a key inquiry question as we prepare. As we prepare the lessons, we need to know that we need to develop the core competencies. Okay, here we have a scheme of work.
So we've broken down this scheme of work from the strand that we shared earlier in the curriculum design, and we are only looking at the natural environment, and more specifically the first strand on natural and built environments. So we want to look at how we break down the 6 lessons that were given by the curriculum design to help us interpret for our own use. However, like Mudoka said, the Oxford resources, the teacher's guide particularly guides us on how those lessons are broken down. Actually, the lessons are broken down for you, makes it a lot easier.
So now here we have, when you look at this one, it is, we have the week, the lesson, the strand, the substrand, specific learning outcomes, key and inquiry question, very important, this part, very important, learning experiences, learning resources, assessment and remarks. I want to come to this part here. Teachers learn this one, as you saw in the curriculum design, they are suggested. Look at the word. I know we understand about the word suggested. It means you can change this one to fit your situation. You can change the suggested learning outcomes so that now you fit the situation where you are, the environment where you are. Because our schools are in different areas, and we cannot go for, like, when we are going for the field studies, we will not go to the same place. And therefore, this one, you can play around with this one and bring it to where you are. So let's look at this. We have the natural and the built environment, and the substrand is natural environment, the compass direction. So what did we pick here from our lives today and the scheme that we have, the curriculum design? We say By the end of the substrand, the learner should be able to identify the 4 cardinal points of a compass. So here, the teacher, you need to start from known to the known. For example, you can start in the class by asking the children, who is seated to your right, who is seated to your right, who is seated to your left, who is in front of you, who is at the back. At this time, the children are playing with their body. They are looking at their right, their left, and that. So that now you bring in, through this, you are going to bring in now, you take the children out, you just draw a compass direction on the floor, a child stands at the, but now this time, maybe sometimes we say, our right hand points to the east and all that, and then you're seated. So at this time, you look at where the sun is rising from and let that one be east. And then they let the right hand face east. So that as you bring east out, then now you bring in the cardinal points. East, west, north, south. So now here is the key. How could we tell direction of a place? This is what's going to guide you now. As the children are around, you can form now groups at this time with the different children forming the compass direction, and then they are going to identify where is the office from where you are, where is the staff room from where you are. Now they're going to be able to point directions using the cardinal point that you have already introduced before you go out. Learners are guided to brainstorm in pairs for the 4 cardinal points. This one comes before you go out. This one comes before you go, you take the children out to go and now demonstrate or practice using the cardinal points. Then you are guided here. As I said, our teacher's guide will give you even the main point that you need to bring out. Remember, when you look at our textbook, the pupil's book, it is more in pictorial form. There are more pictures than notes. So as you read the teacher's guide from the Oxford, it gives you the main points. What am I supposed to do when I go to class? What am I supposed to do when I take the children out? What am I supposed, it has guided you step by step until you come to the conclusion. Practice in pairs giving direction of places using the 4 cardinal points. At this point is now where you take the children out. At this point, the children are going to demonstrate facing different directions and pointing at different places using the 4 cardinal points. So this way, when you follow all these and whatever is given in this, already here you are using the local environment, which is outside the classroom. You are using the local environment that is outside. And then before you go outside, you add a chart that shows the compass direction with the 4 cardinal points. You can come up with a mnemonic, the news, north, east, west, south, news. And that one will help the children to remember the cardinal points using the word news. Let's continue. So with this one, we know that we have 3 lessons for social studies per week. 3 lessons for social studies per week. So we have broken the first week with the 3 lessons. You can see them down here. Natural environment, compass, direction, and that goes there. But the learning outcomes are now what is determining what you are going to teach. By the end of the lesson substrand, the learner should be able to use the 4 cardinal points to give direction of places. Now, this one, you are still extending on this one. And how do we tell it is the same? Therefore, this one is now draw the label. Here we are now linked to other subjects or linked to other learning areas. When they're drawing, they are linking art and craft. The drawing and labeling. This is linking other learning areas. You have already linked to that one. Then you say, let's continue. Let's go up. So already we have linked other subjects that now they are practicing using that one. Now the 3rd lesson for the week is just on the same, on the compass direction, but now here you're bringing in to be able to identify places using the 8 compass direction. It is very important now that you are going to use the 8 compass direction, the pupils need to know one. The other 8 points are placed in between the cardinal points. For example, we want to know about the point between north and the east. The point between north and east is northeast. We start with, and we use north and south to identify the other 4 points. The point between north and the east is northeast. The point between south and the west is southwest. So these students will be able to coordinate and know now how to use the 8 compass points. Okay, teachers, we have now broken the 3 lessons in the first week, but remember we have 6 lessons in the first substrand, the compass. Let's go to the next slide. It means that you have something to say, to add?
No, we are moving on well, thank you.
Okay, so in the next slide, we have also broken again the it's okay. We can say we have broken the other 3 lessons. So with this one, we have covered for you completely the 6 lessons. And the last person, the last place is now, by the end of the substrand, the learners should be able to appreciate. This one comes now in what are you going to do? Maybe this one you can come up with oral questions, or what I usually call a tailor-made quiz. Tailor-made quiz. This quiz can be based on the old substrand. You come up with a summative quiz where the children are going now to sit and do some questions on the old substrand. Whatever they do now, then that is when you're able to know whether you have you did the lesson very well, you achieved the learning outcomes, and whether you have done that one. Again, as they appreciate, you can ask questions about the school. I want to take you back to mathematics last year for class 3, grade 3, the MLP. There was a question when they were testing which was asking about direction. And the pupils were to say which direction will the teacher turn as he's going to grade 2. And the pupils had to follow up. And you see that at the end of the tunnel, the teacher was to turn west. And that is a link to other subjects. The children will appreciate that. Oh, I learned about this one. I'm able to identify different directions as I'm going home. Sun rises from the east and sets from to the west. And all this is an appreciation of the lands the children have learned about the compass direction. Can we continue, please? So we have already broken the 6 lessons for you teachers, and you are able to see how we got it. When we give you the notes from here, please go and see how we have done it for you, and it will be easier for you to be able to interpret the curriculum design. We have a sample of a lesson plan, and now we need to talk about the lesson plan. I think there was something before this.
So
Sorry?
before you go to the lesson plan, or as we go to the lesson plans, somebody is asking whether the last column in the schemes of work should read remarks or should read reflections.
On the what?
The schemes of work, the last column, we've written remarks, and I think the teacher is concerned as to whether it should read remarks or it should read reflections.
Whatever is written here, there's something to say.
Yes, so I think the current practice is that last column should read reflections and not remarks. Yeah, so we apologize for that. We are all learning, like we said earlier, that there are some things that you may see, and it's good that you noted that out. It's good for the teacher to reflect. So what went well, what did not go well, what can I do differently based on today's lesson? And that is what the teacher writes in this column, which is a reflection of the lesson. Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mudoka.
I think before we used to, teachers used just to tick. But in
Yes.
this case, you need to, after the lesson, after you have covered that one, what is the feeling of the teacher? Have you achieved? Whatever you write there will indicate whether you need to review something or you are okay and you continue, depending on the assessment on what you have done for the to assess the children. Thank you. You can continue. Rose, do you have to say something about the lesson plans?
No, I won't say much about the lesson plans, but again, just like the previous practice, a lesson plan is what we finally break out from the schemes of work, which of course we picked or interpreted from the curriculum designs. So again, we are breaking down, or we are bringing to the fore a lesson plan for each of the 6 lessons that we have in the schemes of work. However, we will not go through all the 6 lessons. We will only concentrate on the first lesson. And as Ms. Mudoka takes you through, I'll be attempting to answer some of the questions that are coming up in the question and answer. Mr. Mudoka?
Okay, thank you. I think we can maybe go to the last lesson plan, so that maybe we discuss that one and go to the next area.
Okay, let me work on that.
Yeah, okay, we can. Okay. Teachers, there's a question about how do you help a child to differentiate to know northeast and not east north. We say that we use north and the south as we name the other 4 points of a compass. And they say the area between north and the east is northeast. The point between east and the south is southeast and not east and south. So it is very important to emphasize on that we will use north and south to name the other 4 points of the compass to make it 8. Thank you. Thank you, Daisy. We are here. This is what we call the administrative part, details, where you have the name of the school, the grade, the learning area, the date, the time, the role. And as we said, I want to ask the teachers, and I asked the other time, maybe you can answer. When do we feel this part of the role? When do we feel this part? Do we feel it when we are preparing? And remember, in CBC, we need to prepare our lesson plans before, like if you have a lesson tomorrow, you need to prepare today for the lesson tomorrow. Why? There may be some requirements that you need the school to provide. You may be requiring some items that need to be bought. You cannot go to the office in the morning and ask for some of these things that need to be bought. And therefore, you prepare the lesson the day before so that you can be able to collect all the materials that you need for the following lesson. Otherwise, you may go to class without the materials. And therefore, it's important to prepare before. And if you are preparing today, I will answer the question that I had asked, is you cannot fill the number of children today when you are teaching the lesson tomorrow. Why? You don't know how many learners will be in class when you are teaching. So this part here, you only fill the number of pupils that you have taught. If your class has 26, and on that day you taught 23, then you write 23 out of 26. So that you know, I have 3 children, learners, who did not attend the class at that time. In your reflection down there, you'll be able to indicate that you add so and so was not in the class when I was teaching this, so that you can also find out, as an extension, find out what am I going to do with these learners who were not in class? Are you going to leave them and forget them, or you are also going to update them to be at the same level with the class? So this one is very important. Don't feel every day 25 out of 25, the class has 25, so I told 25, yet some pupils were not in. So this one should be filled after you have taught. Now let's come to this. All this, you know the name of your school, it is social study. The lesson is starting at 8:15 to possibly 35 minutes to 8:40, and then the date and then the time, and then the role after you have done that one. Now you come to this part. In the new, we have from KCD a new format for the lesson plan. And then you are here, you start with the strand, you come to this one and all these, and you go. And this is by the end of the lesson, the learner should be able to appreciate and know that there's a key and query question. How do we give direction over places using the compass? This one, when they answer this, as they say, I'm able to identify a place from another one, is an appreciation because already they know. Resources, you are given our lives today, book that page, and also in the other part, we have given you the teacher's guide, the page, the real items that you need to use, the wall charts and all that. Organization, this is very important. Where is the lesson taking place? Where is the lesson taking place? In class, outside the class, and all somewhere else. Are you taking a field trip? Are you going to the school compound to identify things? This one should be written so that now, as the person, as you're looking, you know, at this time, I'll take my children out. Let's continue. Pull up. Daisy. Then we have the lesson plan presentation, is the time, the content. And in this one now, I want you to be very keen, teachers, that as you develop this part, introduction, the teacher recap the previous lesson. This is now you go back to the approaches, the key, the inquiry-based approach, where you want to find out, are the children able to remember what I taught yesterday? And the questions here must be questions that are going to help the child to recall. Please don't ask questions like, do you know is? Yes. Do you know not? Yes. That one is a yes and no question which should not be entertained, but question that's going to bring a variety of answers. So that's the key inquiry question. And this one should be able to elicit the children to recall what they learned. So this is very important. It should be a revision time. And then as you continue with this one, as you are introducing, you bring in more questions that are going to now help the child connect with what you're teaching today. In the introduction part, after you recall what you learned yesterday, you ask other questions that are going to help the child transit to the next topic of the day or the substrand. And then you develop this. Now, I want you to note, in every step, maybe we go back one lesson, teacher, Madam Daisy, we go up one lesson 5. Yes, pardon that. Okay, there we are. In this one, in every step, you are going to bring in the core competencies to be developed. Again, I will take you to the teacher's guide, Our Lives Today. In Our Lives Today, they have given you a column that shows all the competencies you need to achieve, the PCIs, the values, the link to other subjects. They have given you there. They have given, as they develop every lesson in the teacher's guide, they have given you all this. By the end of this lesson, these are the core competencies you need to develop. These are the values you need to develop. This, all that has been given in the teacher's guide, Our Lives Today. And it must come in the KCD has developed a new one, and they want these core competencies to be shown in every step. Like in this one, digital literacy, as learners use digital devices in drawing the compass. You will bring the attention of the teachers. I am assuming that according to the news that we have in Kenya, is that apart from maybe 2 or 3 schools in Kenya which do not have the iPads and the laptops, all the others have. And the teacher has the smartphone and all that. And therefore, this one, as you draw the learners, find out about the compass direction, their digital devices, you are developing a core competence. Communication and collaboration. How are the pupils working? And remember, communication and collaboration is not developed only when pupils are working in groups or working in pairs. Even when you as a teacher is teaching, you are communicating with those learners. You are asking a question and the learners are responding, you are communicating. You can tell how the children are able to develop the communication and all that. So it is wide. When the learners are also interacting with the digital devices and all that, there's communication. There's a lot, we see a lot of communication in a wide range, and therefore it must be developed very well. The values, promotion of unity as they work together, promotion of love and respect. How are we going to do this? Look at it this way. We want the children, as you form groups, to be interactive and also to be comprised of all the learners in your class. How? You have different tribes in your class. And I don't think that we have a school where we have only some, unless maybe in some rural areas, one tribe. We want to see the groups mixed, Wakamba, Wameru, Wakikuyu, Wajaluo, in one group. Do not form groups of tribes. Mix them so that they work as a team. I'm going to appreciate my partner who is from another tribe. I'm going to appreciate my partner who is another, who is disabled. They are going to work as a team and make sure that those special needs children are given some leadership roles to play. They are the ones to present maybe the report. They are going to be the leaders in that group so that they feel appreciated. They feel like any other. It's very important as you develop these competencies. Let's continue, Daisy. Let's go down. So now that you have already done, you have already broken down your scheme into lesson plans, then there is this part here that I want to talk, the conclusion. The conclusion. Teachers, we conclude our lesson in different ways. It's very important to come up with a conclusion that is very, is going to cover the whole area. What were you teaching today? How are you going to recall? In this conclusion, sometimes we see people teachers giving notes. We see others giving questions. We see others asking oral questions. So whatever you're going to put here should be like an assessment, an evaluation of what you have covered. It is from here, the conclusion, that you're going to come up with the reflection. It is from here. When you ask the questions, oral questions, about the whole lesson that you were answering, how did they answer? How are the pupils responding? Is it every child who is able to name the 4 cardinal points or the 8 cardinal points? How many can do it completely? How many are able to name 7? How many are able to name 5? All that. That one gives you the reflection of the lesson. Were you able to achieve the outcome? That one comes to the reflection. How many children did not get? It is from here that you are able to form, to come up and develop the rubrics from the conclusion. Because already you are going to ask questions based on what the pupils have learned at the end of the day. And therefore, the conclusion helps you now to go to the next one. Now, let's look at the summary. This one, people give different, in the summary, you can give some summary notes on what you are teaching. In the lesson plan, they have given you those several columns where you can give the notes. Even at the end of there, you can give some questions. You can come up with how you are going to conclude your lesson. Are you going to give some tailor-made questions on the subtract? Are you going to give some? Are you going to give some notes? You can give even structured notes. What do you mean by structured notes? Notes with the dashes for the pupils to fill. That one can also come as a summary for your need. Then now the reflection. How did the lesson go? You as a teacher, how do you feel the lesson went? Were you effective? Did you achieve the outcomes? Did you develop the core competencies? How could you do that? And there's a question that you develop the core competencies. And it is in this one where I did what? I gave the pupils were able to answer questions. The pupils were able to discuss in their groups. The pupils were able to interact very well. There was respect and all this. Already, you just give your reflection here on how the subject, how the lesson went through. Thank you. You can continue. You have some keywords that we needed just to say.
Sorry, Mr. Mudoka, should we go back to the slides?
We go now to the last part of the lesson 6.
Lesson 6, okay.
Yeah, down there there's some summary notes, summary keywords to be Yeah, there we are. Now, we came up with this one for us to understand those keywords. We have organization of the learning, and we say that this is where the lesson is taking place. Is it in class? Is it outside? Are you going to take a field trip? Are you going for a trip somewhere outside the school? It must be indicated in your lesson. And we say that if you are going outside the school, maybe for a trip, please prepare questionnaire. And from the questionnaire, when the pupils go there and ask the questions, when they come back to school, they should make a report. It's very important that it is from the report that you will be able to conclude that there was learning outside there. Please let us not take trips to go outside there for leisure. We are going to learn. It is from the report that pupils write that shows you that you achieved your objective when you went for that trip. So show this one. Then we have the lesson development. This shows the flow of the lesson in steps. We have already broken down there. You have seen step 1, step 2, step 3, and there is timing for every step. So teacher, remember, for the 35 minutes, you need to maybe to occupy, to teach for 15 minutes, and the other one is taken by the pupils to play the greatest part in that, because learner-centered. So conclusion shows how one ends the lesson, either through oral questions, written questions, even giving assignments. So that's the conclusion. Summary, short points or notes on the learning outcome. You test on what you have told, or you just give some notes. Assessment can be assessment as learning, assessment of learning, and assessment for learning. That one is well explained in the teacher's guide, what it means, all this. Please, teachers, befriend the teacher's guide, and they'll give you the meaning of all this. Is very important. The reflection on the lesson is an analysis of the lesson. How did it go? Mwalimu, be able to assess how the learning went. Was I able to achieve the outcomes? Did I develop all the competencies as required? And how was the lesson delivered? Have all the learners understood the lesson? What next? It is very important. And this one is where now you bring in also the children who were absent. What next for the children who were absent? If it was not done as expected, or if it was well delivered, what next? So it's very important to give a comprehensive reflection of the lesson. Extension activity. In our lives today, we have developed this one for you teachers. In the books we call it take home. What are the children going to do after the lesson? Are they going to carry an assignment home? Is there something that they're going to do with the parents? Remember the parental empowerment and engagement, and then they bring a report tomorrow. It's very important in this one also, you link up with the parents through the diaries, through maybe SMS on what are the children supposed to do when they go home. Please involve the parents, is very important. It is from the extension that we see also, what are you going to do after that? Can we continue? I hope the teachers have understood this. It's very important. Teachers, it's very important so that we become better teachers of tomorrow. Can we continue, Daisy?
Back to the slides, right?
Yeah, back to the continuation, please.
Okay.
Teachers, it is very important to add the formative assessment and the summative assessment as you continue preparing the lessons. How do? You need to make the assessment and prepare good assessment as you are preparing the lesson. Are we there, Daisy?
Yes, just give me a second.
I want to ask this question to the teachers. How long do you take to deliver to develop the competencies? It's very important to find out, when do I assess the competencies? Welcome back. So
That's okay?
It's okay?
Okay.
I think we have done this one. This is an instrument that may be used by a teacher to determine the extent to which learner has achieved specified learning. And this on assessment. And we are prepared. We have come up with different ways of assessing the learners and all that. And we have, let's just continue this down there. We are looking at different ways. Competence-based assessment tools. We have come up with several, and we are going to look at each of this one in a brief. We have observation schedules, checklists, rating scales, rubrics, questionnaires, project, journals, portfolio, oral and oral questions. We'll explain what this means, oral and oral, learner's profile, written tests, anecdotal records, and I'm sure that even when we were following the other learning areas with different trainers, they also talked about all this. But we are going to look at all this from the social point of view, so that we see how do we prepare all this in social studies. Can we continue? Let's go down. Yeah, we have now an observation schedule. This is a schedule outlining characteristics and the behavior that the learners manifest during the performance of specific tasks individually or as a group. The teacher records observation made on the behavior of the learner. Remember, facilitators, the teacher now, the facilitator, in most cases, you are going to observe. And then the learning is going on. Remember, like when they are in a group, they are discussing. Is everyone taking part in the discussion? Is everyone able to present a task that then you now feel? Let's continue down. You see, you feel now the sample. We have given a very good sample here. Remember, you as a teacher, it's you to make this one. Now you look at this, the criteria, which is this identifying cardinal points, drawing compass showing cardinal, and now here you have now the rubrics. Is he able to identify the 4 cardinal points? If somebody is getting all of them, you give a 4. Maybe, let's say like Anyango, if Anyango was able to give the 4 of them, you give a tick in 4. If Anyango is able to draw the compass showing the cardinal points and able to maybe has left something, you give 3. And all that, you are able to fill this one. These are the rubrics. Macau is not able to draw, you give 1. It's below expectation. Is able to not able to identify, maybe he identifies only 1, you give 1. If he's able, you know, there are people who are very good in artistic. He's able to draw it and they give everything. Now you give Macau 4. He's able to give direction using campus, the direction you give, maybe he's not able to point at some direction, you give 2. And then at the end, you make a remark or a reflection on each pupil. You make a reflection on each pupil. Is able to do this, and this, and not able to this one. According to, if he was able to get all the 4 here, then you give a remark on that one. If he's able to do this and not able to do this and that one, it must come on the remark or the reflection part, this part here. It's very important to know. After you conclude, after the observation, you make a remark of every learner, not a general. Every learner, you come up with a remark. Let's continue. Now, the checklist. A list of attributes of an individual's behavior that requires the teacher to carefully, this one here, to carefully observe. You have noted something that you need to follow after that about a particular learner. At the end of the lesson, the teacher and the learner make a summary and draw conclusion. At the end, you're free to call this learner and discuss what you observed. This behavior that you observed, you can call the pupil after that, and then you discuss and you come with a conclusion. The learners too can be guided to develop and use their own tools to monitor their progress, especially on self-efficacy, such as personal, social, decision-making skills. You can let the learner, what do you feel about this? Ask the learners. Let's look at the format, the table. This is the table. Communication and collaboration. Is Anyango able to communicate well and collaborate with the others? You tick. Is he able to the learning to learn? How is he? Can he recall? Can he bring to the today's? Can he recall what learning to learn? Can he creatively about creativity and the problem solving? Is he able to solve a problem? When you ask a learner a question, how does he respond? Does the person give you comprehensive answer on that? Then you also then you give a remark. This one is very important also, and it gives the teacher an overview of the learner. It's very important. Let's go to the next one. Time in a way. The rating scale. The rating scale. Rating scale state the criteria and provide 3 or 4 response selections to describe the quality or frequency of learners' work. This one already the teacher has prepared. Use of descriptive words such as always, usually, sometimes, or never helps to pinpoint the specific strengths of the needs and the needs of the learner. Let's look at the chart. Here you are, skill and the behavior. Can name all the cardinal points, always. Anytime you ask this learner, for example, Anyango, is able to name the 4 cardinal points of ed and always without missing any. Or sometimes forgets 1 or 2, or sometimes not really, or sometimes never, cannot even recall what you taught. Then you are able to tick and mark for every. This is the behavior that you are monitoring. And draw, label the compass point, you also indicate. Can use a compass to tell direction, you indicate. And this one, well, it is for every individual learner. Remember this one, if you have 20, you must make 20 for every learner. So it's very important to have the progressive record book for the learner, and then you form this one so that you just be feeling for every. If you have no progressive, you can also make design yours from an A4 book, and you come up with this for every learner in your class. So your work will be just able to tick after every substrand. Let's continue. Rubrics. This is another area which is very important. It has been key, and we are using this one to assess. Consists of fixed measurement scale and the detailed description of the characteristics for each level of performance. The description focuses on the quality of the performance and not the quantity. Please note that, teachers, the descriptions focuses on the quality of the performance and not the quantity. It is not the much that the person is able to do, but the quality of what the person has done. If this person is drawing a compass, how is he able to draw the compass? This is something that everybody can look at it and say, I want to look at it again. Are commonly used to evaluate learners' performance with the intention of including the results in a grade for reporting purposes and teacher accountability measures. It is this that you can present to maybe to the administration on every learner's performance. It is this that you will also use for placement. When the design looks for placement, we are looking at somebody has already completed grade 3. How is he going to transit to the next grade? Then you use the rubrics. You have the sample there, up Daisy. On the rubrics. Can we see this one? Okay, we can see the performance criteria using a compass direction, exceed expectation, using the compass point, tell direction accurately, and with ease, then you give 4. Uses the compass to point, tell direction accurately. Maybe it's able to stammering but coming up with that is meeting expectation. Attempts, maybe you can say north, and you're not able to point at west and leave some. Then it's approaching. He's able to recall some, and we have others who will rarely even remember what that compass direction is. then that one is below expectation. The question is, what are you going to do with these two areas? As a facilitator, what are you going to do with these two groups? These ones, we know, they are better. These two, they need your attention. How are you going to meet the needs of these two groups? Because you need to bring them up. You cannot leave them. Remember, they are your learners. They're in your class. You cannot just leave them and assume, you will follow the others. No, you need to, in your reflection, to come up with what ways are you going to do to help these two groups to be at par with the others. Let's continue. Easy. Questionnaire. This one is very important, especially when you are taking, we said maybe you are going for a trip. A list of questions on various aspects of a person's situation or issue can be used before teaching to find out the needs, characteristics, experiences, and the knowledge levels of the learners. This one, the question that you ask in the introduction part, can form as a questionnaire. You want to find out, before I proceed with the lesson, are they able to recall what we learned previously? Are they able to recall what we learned yesterday? That one forms a questionnaire. You're able to learn, to find out, am I going to revise? Am I going to repeat and to give an overview of the lesson? Can be used by a teacher to find out how learners are progressing and responding to the learning activities. Am I going to proceed or am I going to repeat, so that they can, maybe the lesson was not well taught according to your reflection. Am I going to repeat? This one will give you that, and be given to learners to gather feedback on how they are applying their learned competencies in and out of the school, even when they're at home. Remember, they take home, they are learning from home. For example, in grade 2, you talked about the weather during the day and the weather at night. At home, they are learning. That's out of school. When they were to learn about the weather, the whatever we find in the sky at night, then that one they are learning at home. Then you need a feedback on what they found out. So let's continue. Let's see the questionnaires. Here are some. Maybe we are talking about the county. Introduction before teaching. Physical features. Which natural things do you see around your home and on the way to school? Here you are now trying to bring out, you want to
11 o'clock.
You want to introduce the topic on physical features, and you want to find out whether the children are able to find out what is natural. You need to explain what are natural things. Then the children will tell you that I saw a river, I saw trees, I saw a hill, all that. When you look outside the classroom, which natural things do you see? They will look outside and they'll be able to give you. Finding out the progress of the learners, location and size of the count, for example. Is the learner able to define what a count is, name or his county, compare his or her count with others? All this will give you an overview of how the learners are and where they are at that level. Let's continue. Project. Yeah, these are another area. These are a set of activities implemented within a set of time frame with a clear start and end time. You must know, when am I going to start and when are we going to end, with a clearly stated purpose of the set of and the set of objectives. It allows learners to apply their acquired knowledge and the transferable skills to a real life situation. The learners will not be in school forever. They'll go outside there. They need to make use of this. So it's very important. Learners could be challenged to identify the needs in their community where they can provide services based on what they learned. For example, let me give an example. For example, the enterprise. In our grade 4, we have the enterprise. The children are supposed to come up with a project that's going to earn money. How can we earn money from school? Then they decide to come up with a project, maybe like planting cabbages or sukuma wiki. I'll give you an example. We had a project where we planted this spinach, and although there was a lot of problems with their parents because they were thinking the children are getting dirty, when we had our parents' day, we sold these spinach, and the bunch was going for 500. And by the end of the parents' meeting, the children in grade 3 had made around 20,000. And now they were to plan, how do we use, because we want them to know that we can generate money, and how can we use this money wisely for their needs in school. Let's continue. Let's see the project. We have a sample project here, Strand Enterprise at school. I have broken this one, the Substrand project you can do in a school to earn money. Standard. By the end of the Substrand, the learner should be able to actively participate in initiating an enterprise project. And then we can have how are they going to share? The task is to identify the project to undertake, identify the materials they will need, identify leaders for the project, and all this is prepared by the teacher. Please note, determine criteria and develop rubrics for this. How are the children developing from the start of the project up to the end of the project? How did each learner participate or take part in the project? Let's go down. All this is there. We'll give you this note for you to study. Then is the assessment sheet now. Name, criteria, identify criteria is the exceeding expectation, or that. Identification of the project. Did he take part? How was it? Acquisition of the material. How did they provide? Let's say, for example, we need manure, we need water, we need the seedlings. How did they participate? Sharing of duties. Who is who? Who is reluctant to do whatever they are supposed to do? If somebody is not active, then you give us something. Taking care of the project. How did they participate in up to the end of the product when they are selling? And then after that, you come up with a remark. This is the criteria. Let's continue. This is the assessment sheet we have made for you. So you need to make one that covers your class, and then the journal. The learner keeps a record of their personal feelings. This is very important because this is now for the learner. Thoughts and experience on a daily basis. It is the learner who makes the journal about their feelings. How am I? Are they happy about what they're doing? Are they willingly doing it? That is very important. They keep their personal feelings. Shows the activities carried out in a day by the learner. In the morning, what they do and all that, they just feel with how they feel about the whole day. Assessment through journals and diaries should be joint venture between the learner and the teacher. Is it important for the teacher to find out what is in the journal? Very important, because you need to know about the feelings of your learners throughout the day. Based on the learner's performance, the teacher can provide either support or challenge or both. Now, if the child feels like, I didn't understand about this, can you challenge them using a question? Can you probe them? Can you prompt their thinking? Can you challenge them with something that will make them go back and they maybe redo something and they come up and make them even feel that they did the right thing for the day? Let's continue. Let's look at the journal. Here we are. Monthly sample of monthly journal. Monday. Strand, economic activities. Substrand, economic activities in the county. And then they are going to fill, or they are filling all the way. Tuesday, Wednesday, and all that. They'll just fill this one. Let's continue. Let's go to the next. Portfolio. This is another area that is very important. And as Catherine was explaining, she explained about the 3 types of portfolios and their uses: a purposeful collection of learners' work samples, learners' self-assessment, and the goal statement that reflects on learners' progress. Evidence assembled by learners to demonstrate competency. Learners choose the work samples to place in the portfolio, but the teacher may also recommend that specific work samples be included. And then we have a reason why we need to use portfolios. I've given it there. As you can read, it's self-explanatory. You can read this one when we send you the notes. Let's proceed. Let's see a portfolio. I'm down there. Daisy. We have the 3 types of portfolios here. We have the working portfolio, showcase portfolio, and the assessment portfolio. And all these are very important. Working is from, let's say from, for example, working portfolio shows the work progress. Where did we start? Where have we gone? How far have we gone? And where are we today? The child is able to assess, where did I start? I started with scribbling and coloring a whole page. And then in the second step, I was able to narrow on the coloring. And at the end, maybe I'm talking about a preschool place. At the end, it's able to color the point that is required. We can see the progress from where they started and where they are. In grade 4, you can see how they started with maybe drawing the compass, and now they have continued to progress until they're able to draw a very neat compass, well labeled, well colored. That one is that. Then from the working portfolio, the child can pick the best and put it in the showcase. So the showcase is more of the child's document. This one is more of the child's document where they are able to proudly show their best work. And they can be able to pick from the working portfolio the best work and place it in the showcase portfolio the best work. Now, assessment, this one is what is now very important for the teacher. This is what you use for assessment. This is where you put all the assessment of the children, your rubrics and everything for placement. It is this one, the assessment portfolio that you can use when you are making the end of the year or the end of the term assessment of the learner. I think you were given some examples of the portfolios and all that. We won't go about that more. I think these are self-explanatory. I've explained. Let's proceed. Then we have the oral and oral. Oral, spoken, oral to do with hearing. Oral is to do with hear, sense of hearing. Like you want to play a music for the learner. You want to play something they're going to hear from a video. I mean, they are going to hear music, something like that about you want to have a song on the for mnemonics. Then they are going to listen. This is oral. Then oral is spoken. When you are teaching, they are able to listen. So these are used to establish what the learner knows and can do. Oral questions are posed by the teacher verbally. Oral questions are usually pre-recorded and played to do for the learner to listen. Oral is for the learner to listen. Maybe you have come up with songs to teach mnemonics or to teach some rivers. You have come up with a song for the Mijikenda. You have come up with a song for the lakes in the Rift Valley. Then you play that CD for the children to listen. That's oral. Or you ask questions on through a CD. That's oral. Allow the learner time to think, then call randomly to respond. After the children have listened to what you want, now ask oral questions and don't ask specific. Ask the randomly to find out how the children are doing. Use both closed and open-ended questions. Use questions that promote higher order thinking. Promote higher order thinking. These are questions that will the learners will have to think. Not a question like who is the president of Kenya? That's what they will answer. But can you ask a question that will? Who is the head of government? Who is the head of state? And the children will have to think. So this higher order thinking, the questions must be include higher thinking. It's not a simple question. It is a challenging question that will prompt the children to think more. Let's continue. Oral questions. Which economic activity is commonly carried out in your county? Remember, we can talk about the economic activities carried out in Kenya, which they know, but this time we want to see what is common in the account. What do the people in the account do? Maybe the children know that we grow coffee, we grow that, but what do most of the people do in the county? In what ways do economic activities in your county benefit your county? And all this, they will think wider. How do growing maize, how do this? They will think. We want them to think harder. We want them to their brain to expand. We want them to grow in thinking. They grow, they think higher. Let's continue. Hello. This learner's profile. A summary of the teacher's opinion on mastery of competencies acquired in a level by the learner. A summary of the teacher's opinion. What in that level? This is learner's profile. Constructed using information obtained from the observation schedule, learner's journal, checklist, portfolio, all the above. In conclusion, you come up with now the learner's profile. You make this one now for the children after observing all the above. You come up with the learner's profile. Pendele. Now, this is the learner's profile. We have a sample here. Sample learner's profile, level, end term 1, grade 4, subject, social studies, name of the learner, name of the facilitator or the teacher. You are the facilitator. Performance levels. These are the exceeds expectation, meets expectation, approaches expectation, below expectation, assessment tool. How did you assess? Observation. Okay. You are testing drawing. The children are going to draw the compass direction. Accurately and precisely drew and labeled the compass point. Now you give. Remember, this is for individual learner. This is not the whole class. It is for every learner. Therefore, you come and fill all this. Then teacher's opinion on competence acquired, creativity and the problem solving. Was able to draw well-labeled compass point and colored it. Already you have done your part of this. Well, how did you know this? You observed. You observed and you come up with all this for every learner. Let's continue. I think it's clear. Anecdotal record. An account of an event in a child's day. The whole day. Reports, photos, drawings may be used to describe in a factual way the incident, its context, and what was said or done by the participant. And yet the participant is the learner. May also be used to record specific observations of individual learners' behaviors, skills, attitudes as they relate to their learning and the environment. Let's look at it. Let's look at the diagram. Updates, we are on time. This is the sample. Teachers, you follow this one, the name, notes on uses of compass point, remarks by the teacher, this particular day what happened, this particular day what happened, this particular day what happened, and you fill this one every day. This is supposed to be done for every child every day. After the end, you make remarks or reflection. Needs to enhance his drawing skill. After they drew, then you can see the drawing is not very good. Then you are able to put this one. You are able to make a reflection and also the other one. Let's continue. Written tests. These ones are designed according to predetermined criteria that measures competencies in specific learning areas. This one, I always say that please teachers, let's sometimes avoid commercial exams, commercial tests. It's very important to come up with an exam that's going to test your class. And if you want to have a written test, you are going to cover the areas you have covered in your learning area. If you have covered up to Unit 2, test up to Unit 2. We buy exams from outside there or tests from outside there that are covering the whole syllabus. And who are we punishing? The child. So come up with a tailor-made exam or test that will test the up to where you have reached, are designed to elicit evidence from the learner on the acquisition of the learning outcomes and the competence such as creative thinking, problem solving, and communication. You cannot test on what you have not developed. So you are going to test on what you have developed so far. And therefore, this means that you as a facilitator come up with a test that's going to cover what you have covered. I think I've cleared that one. Let us be active, proactive in coming up with that. Okay, let's just continue. Adaptation of assessment tools. I think this one is a modification of assessment methods and tools, presentation of assessment tasks, and all this is clear. Let's move on. Oh, we look at records. We have the
Okay.
12 slides.
All right, let me bring that up. Thank you so much, Mr. Mudoka. I know this has been a marathon, and thank you, teachers, for allowing us to have this within the time stipulated. You gave us more time than we've had other sessions, and so you are our heroes, and thank you for allowing us to be able to take you through this. So, and Mr. Mudoka, asante sana. Can hear you. Your voice now is you're also getting tired. Pole, pole. But we should be done in a few. So,
yeah, sure.
Thank you so much. Okay. There you go.
Let us, we are almost finished. We have only one more slide, and then we are done. Teachers, we have the records of work. This is for the teacher. This is your part, teachers, and this is done. This is one of the professional documents that helps the teacher to know how far he or she has gone with the coverage of the, let's call it syllabus. It enables the teacher to note the overreaching issues. Did I cover what I wanted to cover on time? Did I do it well? Was I able to deliver the key points and the competencies? And then it promotes active learning experiences that addresses difficulties encountered by the learners in classroom. This one on the reflection part of here, this teachers, is where you indicate according to your assessment of the lesson. At the end of the lesson, according to your assessment, did you achieve what you wanted? You have the learning outcomes. Did you achieve that learning outcome? You indicate here. And then you can also maybe tell us, the administrators, what are you going to do if you face a difficulty? If you feel that I did not exhaustively exhaust this outcome, what are you going to do? Are you going to redo the lesson? Are you going to come up with another method of achieving it? And the teachers, I want to say this, we can consult. If you feel that a certain area you were not competently able to deliver that one, you can consult other teachers of social study in your school and let them also maybe come in and do it for you. I love when I feel that I am not able to do well in class 7 about the people of West Africa, and I always request other people to come and help me teach that area, because for me, I feel like I'm not competently going to do it. So I will look for help from even a resource person outside the school and ask somebody else, a social study teacher outside there, can you come to my school and help me deliver this one? You learn every day. So in the reflection of these records of work, you indicate whether you competently achieved your goals or you did not, and what you are going to do. It's very important. Then you just let it. This lesson, work done was on the compass point. What is your feeling about it? And then you sign. Let's go to the last one, Casey. The progress record for the learner. Yeah, there. We have something up there. Okay, the progress record for the learner is just this one. This is a summary of the learner's achievements. The whole term, maybe after some time. The assessment rubrics in curriculum design helps you to make this one. This one, at the end of every strand in the curriculum design, they have given you the rubrics. So the rubrics on the curriculum design will help you to fill this. Was the child able to draw the 4 compass points? You indicate. Was a child able to draw a compass showing the 8 compass direction? You indicate from all these standards, and then you give a remark. This one will help you maybe for some schools to develop a graph. The graph shows you how the child is progressing from when you started and what you wanted to achieve. It's very important at this point, Mwalimu, to tell you that, yes, Oxford University Press has come up with very good books. And these books have everything. Like if you go to the teacher's guide, our lives today, teacher's guide, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, they have given it, they have analyzed everything for you. They have even come up with a sample of all what we have been talking about. They have even broken down all the lessons. Even if the curriculum design tells you this strand needs 20, like in the project, we are supposed to have around 30 lessons. And it's only our project. How are you going to achieve, how are you going to break down the lessons to 30 lessons for a project? The Oxford University Teacher's Guide has broken down all of them for you. Yours is to follow each lesson plan. Actually, it is a matter of maybe pick and paste in your lesson plan and you present it. They have done it for you. They have broken it down for you very well. And what you need to do is befriend the curriculum design, have the Our Lives Today Teacher's Guide and the pupils book, and you are going to deliver a super lesson. At the end, you will not even, you will be the super teacher. And I know you are a super teacher. We are going to be better teachers. We are going to deliver very good, comprehensive, and conclusive lessons that are going to develop and even change the children of this nation. I am proud that we have shared this with you, and we are going to make it better in the future. Daisy.
Wow, thanks a lot, Mr. Mudhoka. Thanks a lot for taking us through the session. Thanks a lot, Rose. You guys have been very busy, but you've created time to be here for us. So I see, Rose, you've answered a number of questions, but probably even as you may want to take us through one or two as we come to an end. For those who are requesting to join WhatsApp group, so there's an email which you want to share. So let me just type it down on a new page, but you can send your emails to susan.mutonga@oup.com. And what I want you to do is to send the name of your school. Let us know which county it is in, so that then we put in the correct WhatsApp group, and also your cell phone number, the one which has the WhatsApp number, so that then we put you in the correct group. So it's, or let me make it bigger so that you can all see. Being told it's a bit too small. There. susan.mutonga@oup.com. So Rose, Mr. Mudhoka, any of the questions you want to pick, I can maybe see one here.
Yeah, so then there are quite a number of questions, which is very good, because that means that we are journeying together. I think one question I would want to address critically is the aspect of, so when do we infuse the PCI? And I've given the example of our current situation. We are in the Corona dispensation right now. And so when you're teaching an aspect like economic activities, you may want to bring in the PCI on health. And so particularly you're looking at health education, but try to narrow it down to what exactly in in health education. And so I have actually given a suggestion of, for instance, that right now we are looking at personal hygiene. And so even as people are doing their economic activities, then children need to be helped to understand that personal hygiene has to be observed, the social distancing that we're talking about has to be observed. So for PCIs, critically, we are looking at the pertinent and contemporary issues arising at that time. For instance, if there's landslides where in West Pokot, a teacher in West Pokot may be thinking about how to address or getting a moment during the teaching to address that particular situation. So for PCIs, infuse as the contemporary issues arise. And then we've talked about remarks and reflections, and somebody wondered, so do we still use remarks in the rubrics, or can we use reflections as well? And I think I would want to tell us that we need to remark for each student, because for each learner, because eventually you want to say something about that learner. You want to talk about how that learner has achieved throughout the strand or throughout the term, or how you are reporting. But it would be good as a teacher, for the purpose of assessment for learning, to think about a reflection, because you're thinking, so what do I do now that this learner is not achieving, or these learners are not achieving as best as I want, or these learners are achieving well, so what is my next plan? So remarks and reflections, let them not trouble you so much in as far as the rubrics are concerned. You may use them depending on how you want. Then the other question is, so do we use all these tools? No, you don't have to use all these tools. Please think about what you are teaching. What is it you want to attain? What tool is going to help you? What we have done is give you, or suggested to you, some of the tools that will be very meaningful when you're teaching social studies, or when you are facilitating the concepts around social studies. Now, there are some content-based questions, for instance, whether east, how do you know the east? Must you always use the sun? And I think sometimes it's good to come down to our natural context and go back to how our forefathers understood the direction. And so we can build on to that by using where the sun rises from, and to just build on to, you know, that information or that knowledge that the children already have. I think the other questions will go by and by. Oma, I've been unable to answer your question on democracy. Well, maybe we can look at it again. I'm not sure I'm able to figure out what you really would like us to talk about. Thank you, Daisy.
Okay, thanks a lot. I am seeing it's now 11:30. Thank you so much, teachers, for joining our session. Please remember that all our social studies books, all the way from Environmental 1 to Social Studies 4, are approved by KICD, and we have teachers' guides for each class, which you can always get it in any bookshop near you. In addition to that, you also have the workbooks for environmental. So that's Environmental 1, 2, 3, and 4 will be coming in soon. So it's something that you can actually share with your learners at home, and can also be used, the parent can also be able to mark the child's work, because we have a separate answer book which has got all the answers for each and every subject or learning area that we have in each grade. So we request that if wherever you are, please get an opportunity to look at the material that Mr. Mudoka and Rose have clearly demonstrated to us. And it's important that teachers please use the teacher's guide and not just rely on the learner's book, so that then you're able to prepare for your lessons better. Thank you. We'll reconvene again next week on Monday and Tuesday for an English course. So we will be sending out the link and requesting all of you to kindly invite your language teachers to join us for that session. And in addition to that, we'll be sending out these slides later at the end of the week to every person who's registered, so that then you have an opportunity to look at this session. And thank you so much, teachers, for having supported us and also been with us throughout this session. We wish you a lovely week. Take care, and God bless you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Hello, Hilda. Hello.